So let's talk about our most movable joint, the synovial joint. Diarthrosis is going to be the most movable, free-moving. It's a joint in which two bones are separated by this space called the synovial cavity. So you can actually see, here's one bone, here's another bone, and they're not actually touching. They're actually in this suspension fluid that basically separates bone A from bone B. Examples of these would be how our elbow, our knee, our shoulder, and hip are put together. This basically allows us to articulate a lot more of this bone, the movement, compared to all the other types of bones that we talked about, or the different types of joints we talked about. So let's talk about a couple of these things that we're going to see. So we see that the two bones are separated, and this blue area is just called articular cartilage or hyaline cartilage. And we add that to the bone, so if they do touch, they're not actually rubbing bone on bone. It's actually just cartilage on cartilage. So whenever we're doing something really stressful like jumping or running or something like that, there's not going to be a lot of friction here. And it's because, number one, there's a little bit of cartilage that covers that area. This area is going to be called the articulating cavity, and it's filled with synovial fluid. It's a fluid that's given off by the synovial membrane. Let's look at that. So if we look at the synovial membrane, it's as thin as a tissue. So it's really thin, and it's designed to basically make this synovial fluid. And the fluid basically is kind of like this sort of like, it comes from plasma, and it sort of has this consistency of the whitish part of an egg. Really sort of thin, but designed to reduce friction. And we do this because if this liquid wasn't here, you just going on a brisk walk would cause so much heat and friction in this one area that it would start to denature and have some major problems. But by adding some liquid to it, it causes it to have this friction-free sort of zone, and you can go ahead and go for a run or anything like that without denaturing this whole area. The other thing that sort of sits on the outside area of this is this fibrous layer. And that fibrous double-walled membrane is made up of dense, irregular connective tissue, and it connects to the periosteum. Remember that fibrous connective tissue on the outside of the bone? So it connects to that, and then connects to the second bone. What it's really doing, besides connecting bone A to bone B, is it's also protecting this synovial cavity. So there's no weird injury that could occur here and cause it to have some major problem. A little more about that synovial fluid. It's composed of material that's filtered from blood filtrate. It's mixed with this hyaline acid, which produces the synovial membrane to form like an egg, kind of like the white consistency of an egg, and it lubricates the joint. Again, if it wasn't there, you'd have all of these issues with denaturing in that area and some major problems. What I think of when I think about this joint is I think about a shock on a car. And the shock absorbers basically have one part of the car hooked up to the tire, and it is usually either filled with a fluid or air. And when you're driving down the street and you hit bumps or little rocks, the fluid itself, or the air in the car, prevents it from rubbing. So you basically get this nice, smooth ride. Same thing's happening here. Here we have a thinner layer of that liquid, synovial fluid. So when you go for a run or whatever, it provides less friction, gives a smoother ride, run, whatever, walk. And it makes it so these two areas don't touch. If they did touch all the time, it'd be really painful, and of course it would heat up and cause some major problems. If we look at the two different things that attach the synovial joints together, they're going to be two things: tendons and ligaments. Tendons attach muscle to bone, and they're going to be connective tissue from the muscle, and it's sort of continuous. So remember that periosteum, that area on the outside of the bone? It sort of connects to that, and then we'll go to muscle to sort of attach to it, and it helps stabilize the joint. And if we look, you'll see some tendons that sort of will kind of go around the bone and sort of stabilize that area. If we look at ligaments, ligaments attach bone to bone. So again, it's going to attach the periosteum from one bone to the periosteum of the other bone, and it helps stabilize that joint. So here we see a ligament, and that ligament starts out of the periosteum of one bone and goes to the periosteum of the other bone. In some areas, we're going to have this extra little thing, which is going to be called these bursars. And these bursa area are going to be these flattened fibrous sacs, and they're lined with synovial fluid and the synovial membrane, of course, and they're going to be found in structures like bone, areas that are going to rub together quite a bit. So you could see that we have a little bit between bone, and if this was gone, it would be bone to bone, which would be really painful. But you can see it's from bone to bone or bone to muscle. And these are going to be areas that basically rub on each other and cause a lot of friction. So the bursars roll and lessen friction. So they're sort of like, almost like ball bearings. They sort of move around and protect the bone and protect the muscle and decrease friction. That's really what we're trying to do here, because as we increase in friction, we're going to increase in heat. When we increase in heat, so let's say this was gone, as we increase in heat, we're going to cause some rubbing, and that rubbing is going to start to get hotter and hotter and hotter, and of course these tendons and things like that will start to denature and just rupture. When these guys, these bursas, become inflamed, they start to cause pain and some problems, and they could need to be replaced. And then tendon sheaths. They're elongated bursas that wrap around a tendon, and they're commonly where there's a lot of tendons close to each other. So these tendons have the ability to move freely. So if we look, here would be a tendon, here would be the bursa, and it goes ahead and stretches around, and this is going to be called the tendon sheath. Again, this is going to be a tendon that moves around quite a bit, and this is again to reduce friction. In our next video, we're going to talk about the types of joints.